I went from being weak to the chi flowing, like the energy just filling up my muscles, my eyes cleared up, my breathing cleared up. So I had a spontaneous healing when that false belief system was shed, because I discovered that the false belief system led to a cascade of response in my body. A, I need to be perfect. B, if I'm not perfect, I judge myself harshly. C, because of the judgment of energy turned against myself, my body, the cells in my body will reflect that by also turning against itself, which is what the formula is for autoimmune disease. The body's attacking itself. Well, I was attacking myself. The body, in the medicine that I practice, and this is like one of the most basic philosophies of how I practice in holistic medicine, the body is a reflection of the mind. What is going on in the mind, the body reflects.
Hi, I'm Carol Saunders, host of the Spiritual Forum, where I have extraordinary conversations exploring the vast realms of spiritual living. If you're on a healing, learning, awakening, or intertransformational journey, this podcast will support you. The personal stories, wisdom, and insight shared here will inspire you and give you hope. Step into your divine nature and welcome to the forum. Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Spiritual Forum. My guest today is Dr. Moshe Daniel Block, and he's a naturopathic doctor, homeopath, and spiritual researcher whose work bridges ancient wisdom, modern healing, and the deep story of human consciousness. He is the creator of the Vis Dialogue, a mind-body therapeutic method developed over 25 years of practice, and the author and producer of Israel's Unfinished Covenant, which is a 4-part cinematic exploration of Israel's purpose, pain, and evolving destiny. Moshe's work brings together Torah, Kabbalah, anthroposophy, alchemical traditions, and contemporary spiritual teachings to illuminate how humanity can heal old patterns of fear, separation, and inherited trauma. We are going to be recording 2 different episodes today. The first one's going to be focused on the mind-body healing, and the second one's going to be focused on Israel's Unfinished Covenant. Welcome, Moshe.
Yay. Thank you. What a pleasure. What an honor to be with you, Reverend Saunders. Thank you.
Yeah, you could call me Carol, which is, I think, easier than your name. Am I doing okay with your name still?
You did. You nailed it. It's so frequently botched, which I'm totally comfortable with, but you nailed it. It's great.
Okay, yeah. Good to know. Okay, good to know. So we're going to first start with just a few rapid fire questions and then go into a succinct telling of your spiritual story, and then we'll dig into your methodology and your homeopathic work as a naturopathic doctor. So, Moshe, can you give me a word or a phrase that either inspires you or may guide your life?
Well, you could see the quote right up there. It's "Be still." My video might be mirrored.
No, I can see it. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Good. That inspires me. Be still and know that I am God. Like the principle of stillness is incredibly important for us. We're used to activity. The more effort, the better. That gets results. But really, through stillness comes all creative energies, all power, all intelligence, all good intelligence. I want to say. So stillness inspires me a lot, very much so.
It's such a great reminder. I completely agree. We live in this busy, loud world. And be still. I remember the very first sermon I ever gave, it was around that. Be still and know that I am God. What a beautiful statement. Yeah.
It's lovely. There's also a principle in alternative energies, or that the fulcrum point between 2 opposing points is actually the point of where power is derived from. So even though we see a lot of movement on a seesaw on the outside, that's where perhaps one can harness power. But it's from the fulcrum of stillness that doesn't move that all power emerges from. So that's also, that I kind of geek out on the alternative energy field as well.
Oh, that's great. That's great. Okay. So I know you've had a lot of influential people in your life, but could you tell us one of them, somebody who's influenced your life?
Does Yeshua count?
Yes, of course.
Because I feel like that should probably be everybody's. However, yes, definitely Yeshua, and there's many more that I can mention, definitely, and other paths and other traditions as well that are very powerful influences for me.
He would be my guy too.
Well, yeah, definitely. Shall I mention other ones, or is that you're just looking for one? That's your quick fire.
No, that's fine. You
question.
can mention another, sure.
Okay, so I've been very influenced and very helped along my journey through the Kriya Yoga path. So Paramahansa Yogananda, and he has a lineage all the way up to Babaji, and really they represent very universal beings as well, who teach like beautiful universal teachings, as well as like look at the Bible and discuss the Bible. So they've been very influential, and other great minds like John Keeley, Nikola Tesla in the alternative energy world. So those have also been inspiring. I could go on. I'm gonna stop right now because I think it was just one person you wanted to know initially.
I'm envisioning a dinner table at this point. Who you're inviting to dinner?
Yeah, right. I wish that would be a great supper.
Wouldn't
Hopefully
that be
it'd be
awesome?
The first one and not the last one.
Yes, right. The first of many, hopefully.
Yeah.
Okay. You have a physical place that is a favorite place of yours?
On Earth?
On Earth, yes.
Oh.
As it is in heaven.
Well, that's a good question. I have, again, there's many. I want to say that probably the two most powerful points are both in Israel. One is the closest point. It's about 100 feet or 100, I think it's 100 meters away, unfortunately. It's still pretty far from the holiest of holies, the Shatia stone, where the Ark of the Covenant rested, where Abraham was going to sacrifice Isaac, where Jacob lay down his head and saw the vision of the ladder with the angels coming up and down. So that point is underneath in the Kotel, the Western Wall. And it's where a lot of women, religious Jewish women, stay and they pray. They read the Tehillim, the Psalms. And I've managed to sneak a little space for like my manness, because they're like women only kind of thing. But I tuck myself around the corner and I just put my hands on the wall, and it's hard to describe the feeling that I get there. It's just incredibly powerful and beautiful.
You actually have some sort of a physical or spiritual experience there.
Oh, yes. Beyond doubt. It can even get to the point where it's overwhelming for me, and I'll take my hands off and, okay, I'm okay. But then my path has been to keep letting go of any fear, because it's really just the fear of the ego losing its identity. So I felt in a similar experience in Meron, where the tomb of Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai is, and he is the alleged author of the Zohar. I say alleged because it's not 100% confirmed, but it's well accepted that he authored the Zohar. And when I touched his gravesite, I was immediately catapulted into a pure white space.
Oh, wow.
It was just white light. I was the light. It was the light. It was all light. It was phenomenal and unmistakable. Beautiful spot.
Well, thank you for sharing that. Those are really interesting experiences. All right, so let's dig into your story. We talked about this is going to be kind of the abridged version.
Yeah.
But what are some points in your life that inspired you to be on the path that you're on now?
Yeah, sure. This will be my 45-minute version and not my 3-hour version, right?
Everyone, hang on.
Hang on. So what inspired me is I always had a connection with a feeling of something divine, a divine connection. So, that was growing up traditionally Jewish, Orthodox Jewish. I felt God was a thing, not a thing, but God was it. There's God. And then I had personal experiences that were complementary to that. So I could see energies, I could feel energies flowing through my body from a young age. I would see flashings of light. I had out-of-body experiences. I could make the chi flow through my body, like the universe, the life energy, and get my hands really charged up, and people could feel it. Like I remember showing my mom on different occasions. And I also saw symbols flash in my vision. And I would see light energy, like lines, specific colorful lines. And that persisted, and it became very intense around my 13th birthday, which is, a time of coming of age, a la Rudolph Steiner. But also in Judaism, that's when I started to read from the Torah. And I had my bar mitzvah where I read from the Torah. I think that was initiatory for me as well in some way. And then I sort of continued being very interested in what this energy was. I had no context for it. I thought I played Dungeons and Dragons as a kid, so I thought that was what it was. But I got my hands on a book called Hands of Light by Barbara Brennan. And
I have that book.
Oh, you have that book?
I do.
Oh, good for you. What a life-changing book. That book answered, I want to say, so many of my questions, because I really had no context for what I was experiencing on an energy vibratory level or even visually. And she really explains all of that stuff remarkably well, and it answered a lot of my questions. So instead of thinking I was a magician, and then, by the way, I was also into ninjutsu, because of all the cool movies out there. I thought I was a ninja because I read in a ninja book something about the flow of energy. And then I thought I was a healer because I read Barbara Brennan's book. And this is all up until the age of 15. So I really knew I wanted to be a healer. And I was also very sick. Like I had a lot of illness growing up and a lot of injuries, physical injuries, because I was very active. I played a lot of sports, broke just about every bone in my body, had internal bleeding, and I had, multiple, pretty serious conditions. I had asthma. And then I developed chronic issues from mono. And then myasthenia gravis, which is a rare autoimmune disease where the immune system attacks the muscles, basically the voluntary muscle in the body, except for the diaphragm. Well, the diaphragm is voluntary, but it could be involuntary when you're not thinking about it, right? So I got very sick when I was diagnosed, around the time I was diagnosed with myasthenia gravis. That was in 1995. So 31 years ago? Is that possible? My math, does it add up? So that's about right. I was very, very sick. I tried lots of different therapies, all the latest cutting edge autoimmune stuff. Nothing really did a dent in it until I went to the Options Institute and I learned about belief systems and how belief systems can affect our well-being and our health. And it was in the first week that I did the studies with Barry Neil Kaufman and Samaria Kaufman at the Options Institute that I encountered the core belief that was behind my autoimmune condition. And the false belief was, I need to be perfect, or else. Like that's basically the sum of it. So I need to be perfect or else. And I would judge myself quite harshly if I thought I wasn't being perfect. And then I discovered, because when I was presented with this question, it was like a dialogue that I ended up learning and then transforming into my work over the past 25 years, actually. When I discovered that belief system, I was asked the question, what makes you think that's true? And I answered, and then I was given a question like, do you want to keep living that way? I had never been asked that question. I never even considered the possibility that being perfect wasn't ingrained in the absolute must of how you have to live. So in being asked the question, the answer became plain to me that no, I don't. And I never thought about that. But then I had a spontaneous healing where I was quite severely paralyzed, actually. I could walk at that time, but there were times in my life when I was very sick, I couldn't walk. I was kind of being dragged around, or like literally dragged along the floor by my wife at the time. And or I was in like a wheelchair, or I was just hobbling around. But I went from being weak to the chi flowing, like the energy just filling up my muscles, my eyes cleared up, my breathing cleared up. So I had a spontaneous healing when that false belief system was shed. Because I discovered that the false belief system led to a cascade of response in my body. A, I need to be perfect. B, if I'm not perfect, I judge myself harshly. C, because of the judgment of energy turned against myself, my body, the cells in my body will reflect that by also turning against itself, which is what the formula is for autoimmune disease. The body's attacking itself. Well, I was attacking myself. The body, in the medicine that I practice, and this is like one of the most basic philosophies of how I practice in holistic medicine, the body is a reflection of the mind. What is going on in the mind, the body reflects. So I was attacking myself, it attacked itself. So when I stopped attacking myself, it has no more reason to do so. And that was evident by the spontaneous healing that I went through. My muscles went from basically, I couldn't do a push-up, to being full and swole again. I was like, yeah, I'm back. Well, my body's back. I was always there, but I was struggling.
I've got a question for you, because
Sure.
I know people who also have that core belief that they need to be perfect and that they turn on themselves when they're not.
Yeah.
But I also know that in some cases that autoimmune is not their condition. So how does that work? Are there other ways that same belief will reflect in the body?
Yeah, that's an excellent question. You know, part of where things manifest and why they manifest there's a little bit of like, you can maybe get a little scientific there, but a lot of it remains a mystery. So the fact, because I can explain a little bit further for myself personally, and I've actually specialized for over 20 years in my practice helping people with myasthenia gravis, and everybody's different. Even though I've worked for 20 years, I've rarely had a case that resembles another. But for me, I had a great strength, physical strength. And through that great strength comes a kind of a confidence in the self, which is nice, but it's just founded on physical strength, which is a kind of a strange confidence to have in oneself. So I understand that my contract here is to evolve towards the one, which is a bit of a misnomer because we already are, but forgive the language here. So to return to the state of where we always have been but forgot. That's a way of putting it. So with my great strength, I was very confident in myself and I didn't doubt myself. And that was a bit of a wrench in the evolutionary process of my soul. So I think that's why I got weak in my muscles where I was most strong, so that I could be weakened and therefore grow in ways that I wouldn't have had I just like been the cocksure, oh yeah, I got this thing called life. I know what to do in life. It brought me to my knees on multiple occasions, and that humbled me to the degree it did enough so that I could start learning what I didn't know and understanding principles that were beyond my understanding at the time. So that's for me why it hit the muscles, right? For a person that it doesn't hit the muscles, well then they probably don't need that for their evolutionary process. And I really think that the illness forms around this calling of the soul, that when there's a false belief, the person is forgetting something. They've misplaced their alignment with creation. So that's where they're stuck in their evolutionary process, where their mind is believing something false. And therefore, whatever they need in the process to evolve past that block will be brought into the healing process. Meaning they might have chronic fatigue, or they might have itchy skin, something that just touches them just right, that should ideally force them to ask the right questions so that they can evolve. Because for me, this is all about evolution to our true nature, which is as children of God. That's why we're here. I don't want to judge anything else. Like, life is full of amazing pleasures and joys and fun things and creativity. But ultimately, the underlying purpose of being incarnate is to recognize the divine in ourselves and to reunite with the divine.
Yes, yes. So it's not formulaic. So it's not like a certain manifestation in the body means that this is your belief, or a certain belief manifests in this. It's very individualized, and it's really about your own soul journey and how each person needs to experience in order to do their evolution.
Yes. Yes.
Okay.
And I mean, you might see patterns of manifestation in the body from certain beliefs, but like, for example, the most common false belief system that I encounter in my practice is I'm not good enough. So common. So, the starting point is not somebody coming to me saying, hey, I feel like I'm not good enough. That's rare. More like it, they'll be like, I'm having like painful migraines. And then the core belief that will derive from all the questions that I ask will be, I'm not good enough. And we could trace the breadcrumbs right from that false belief right to the manifestation of the migraines. or it could be anything. It really could be anything. So yes, although there are patterns, we could say. There could be patterns.
I'm really curious about how self-aware we all are. And it sounds like there's a series of questions that you go through. And I would just think that the ego would kind of put up some resistance to seeing what is there, unless you're really a situation where I am so sick of being sick, I'll do any exploration possible.
Well, you'd be surprised, even when somebody is so sick and that they're at their wit's end, the ego can still cling on for control.
Yeah.
And even to the point where, I mean, on a very simple, mundane level, I've seen this for decades, people can be very sick, but they won't even consider what they're eating might be affecting their health. They don't even want to consider that because they're attached to their food. They don't want to be told they can't eat or drink or whatever they want to. But yes, it's as you said, it's a person. I've been practicing like this now for 25 years, and I've gained some skill at recognizing when the ego is manipulating or avoiding or puffing up smoke, creating diversions during the session. And so I will either directly point that out or ignore it and try to bypass it, or just tell the person, okay, your ego this is normal. Don't feel bad or anything, but this is normal, but you're avoiding the question here. And okay, so let me ask you again, let's sit with it. Because I mean, the ego is innately programmed to survive. Our egos are programmed to survive. And that includes the mind itself is programmed to be busy and to have control over the harnesses of our reality. So, I don't know, you've probably heard the term like monkey mind, like when the mind is busy. So be still applies predominantly, or one of the most important ways of applying that is to the mind, is learning to still the mind so that we're not constantly living mind-centric. Because the mind is ultimately not the basis of reality, even though it thinks it is, and it wants to be. And René Descartes' statement, I think, therefore I am, philosophically would have us believe that it's because we think that we are, or the thinking is a sign of beingness. But that's not true. There's something beyond the thought.
Yeah, Descartes was wrong in a lot of things.
Well, that's good. That's a good way of like casting, like dismissing it, you know? Yeah, right on.
Those theoretical great minds, they're limited like our minds are too.
Sure.
Yeah. Yeah. So let's talk about the very basics of how you look at the mind and the body then. So is the mind a manifestation of the body, the soul, the spirit? How does it all kind of go together in your view?
Wonderful question. So the brain is different from the mind. And most of the time, people, when they're referring to their mind, they say my brain. But the
Hmm.
brain is a physical organ that is the bridge between the subtle energy bodies and the physical body. And the subtle energy bodies is the realm within which the mind exists. So I think that there's a hierarchy of bodies that we inhabit. The most dense one is the physical. It's the most obvious one. And most people on earth identify as being their body. Like, this is my existence. So they get very upset when their body's not functioning well, which is understandable to a certain degree. But they lose their center because their body's not doing well. Or when they age, it's a very big problem because they're not capable like they used to be. So they feel like they are diminishing with the diminishing of their body's capacity, say. And then we go into the vital body. The vital body is an energy field that's sometimes called the etheric, like Rudolph Steiner calls it the etheric level. And the vital body is actually what supplies vital energy to the physical body. The vital body responds to the emotional field and the mental field in the subtle body realm. And the mental body is the mind, essentially. Now, there's different qualities of the mind. One is the conscious mind and one is the unconscious mind. So the conscious mind, you and I are sitting now and we're speaking consciously to each other. Language works through the conscious mind. But there's a whole jungle going on inside of us at the subconscious level. And that's the most important level where illness is formed. And that informs the vital force, the vital body, and the physical body ultimately is a reflection of all that system going on inside of us. There's a couple of other bodies. There's one other body I didn't mention. It's the causal body. And it's incredibly high for each of us humans. It's like one might even liken it to the soul. It's not quite the soul, but the causal body is the point of pure potentiality. It lives in the causal realm, the zone of pure potentiality, where everything is literally still on the physical. There's no movement. It's super conductive on in that area. And when a master exists in that state where they are in their causal being, their body, they recognize everything is just pure potential. Nothing is what you think it is. It just is potential. So great amounts of creative force, even to create miracles at the physical level, exists at that point. And that's so subconscious for most of us that we don't always we don't have that access to those experiences, but that's also chugging along with us as we go along in our day to day.
Well, I like that explanation or that the model because it does help us understand like what are miracles if miracles happen, what are they? Or
Right,
are they just make
exactly.
believe? Yeah, are they something that's just something that's been lore, that we talk about like stories, or was that really real?
Right. And, this also begs the question for me, what is real? And is the physical real? And what does real really mean? So for a person, like, the physical is what appears most real to us, but it's probably the least real aspect of ourselves.
Yeah, it's hard to
That
get.
Yeah, it's quite wild. But what I really enjoy looking at in my program, I offer a program for training in what I do with the Vis Dialogue, the mind body medicine. In the first class, the foundations of the Vis Dialogue, I basically explain that who we really are is consciousness, right? That's beyond the mind. Consciousness does not equal thinking. It is awareness, it's beingness. That beingness, when it incarnates into a body, the mind creates this field around the body such that we believe we are the body. And there's actually a physiological explanation for this. Like everything that happens in our brain is reversed from what's happening in the outside world, sensory world around us. So what you see on the right field is imaged in the left brain. Have you heard of this before?
Yep.
And what's imaged on the left is created in the brain on the right, and then upside down. So our brain recreates everything
Yeah.
from what we
It's
experience
wild.
around. And what I think that does is it puts us within the physical body perception, so that the physical body, we then glue consciousness via the mind in believing that we are in this physical body. So then the physical world seems real because our bodies seem real to us. What we feel is also at the same time imaged on the other side. So everything of the physical sensory world is reversed in the brain, which creates this arena within which we think we sit in the center of. So I'm in the center of this body. This is my center. But as we evolve and we become more detached from the belief that we are the body, our perception is no longer body-centered. The body can become transparent to us and feels like it's not even present. That's for each person's evolution to get to that experience.
Yeah. And I mean, the world that the false world or the illusory world that we live in is that we are our bodies, we identify with our bodies. And am I correct in saying that's what the whole field of medicine is? It's treating the physicalness. And because we're so believing in our body and the physicalness of our experience here on this planet, we pursue physical, medical solutions.
Biological, mechanistic. It's all very material based. And that's very, I'll introduce the term here, Ahrimanic. That's one of the terms that I use in Israel's Unfinished Covenant, the video series that we'll be discussing later. The Ahrimanic force is the force that would like to have us stay and believe that we're just material beings, we're not spiritual beings, there's nothing to evolve to, you die and that's it. Everything that cannot be proven within a material model of reality doesn't exist. It's all hokey or hoopla or whatever, woo-woo.
There's no soul, term. No spirit, no consciousness. Yeah.
Exactly. That's very Ahrimanic. So the conventional medical sciences, conventional medical model, big pharma, and even, I hate to say it, even in naturopathic medicine schools right now, it's all very Ahrimanic. It's all very material based, and not entirely, because some of the schools are preserving the vital force idea. But generally speaking, the world is dominated by this false model that everything is physical. Another false model, which would be the other extreme, is the Luciferic. And this is Rudolph Steiner's way of defining it. I use it because it's such a very pertinent model of reality. The Luciferic would deny all the physical and just say, well, no, we're just spirit. It's nothing to do with the body. That's all illusion. And it's only illusion. And therefore the world is an illusion and anything going on is an illusion. Ergo, we have no responsibility for our worldly purpose.
Yeah.
Our earthly purpose, right? So that's another imbalance towards the spirit. And it's a very important model. So I'm glad to introduce it now because I think it might come into play later as well.
Yeah, it will. And it's interesting to think about and to really look at those two forces and look at how they impact your individual life. And also look out into the society we live in, and you can see both forces at play in media and government and the institutions.
Yeah.
Those that are calling us to this high place are encouraging us to escape this place. We need to escape this place. This is not there's something wrong with this place. We need to
That's
leave.
right.
Yeah.
Right.
And it's such a temptation. I've had that temptation myself. Like this world is nutty. I got to get out of here.
Totally. It's painful.
Yeah.
Like if you fast for a while, you feel like all blissful and stuff. And then you start eating and you come back into your body and it's achy and heavier. And you're like, I want to go back into the non-corporeal world. It's easier.
Yeah, or the near-death
However,
experiences we also hear about. Sorry to interrupt
yeah.
you, but
No
they're
problem. Yeah.
so they really draw people into those experiences. We all are, because it helps us understand that there's something beyond the physical, but it also encourages us to, I think, in a lot of ways, to kind of escape, when in reality those souls are brought back into the body to share their experience and to not escape, but to come back almost like bodhisattvas.
Right. And I actually think that what makes the Christ so special is that it's fully incarnated God consciousness in a physical form. That's what the definition of the Christ is. It's God in flesh. So that, and of course, we'll likely talk about that further. But my work I don't separate I was going to say my work from my play, but really it's all work and play. It's all one big happy family. My healing work, I don't separate from like my yogic work or my work with Christ and healing and alchemy. Like it's all one thing. And I do want to mention one thing. The world suffers now much more from the Ahrimanic influence. That's the big problem today.
Sure. Yeah.
Sure, we're gonna get. You'll get people where you'll say, "Oh, that person's way out there. They need to ground." And if that's probably a Luciferic influence, or if somebody is like really into themselves and they think they're all that, and they kind of looking down at you, that's sort of Luciferic and fine. That's a problem. We know. But the big problem today is the Ahrimanic force, which would have us divide. That's one of the things. Divide in terms of our ethnic, our skin color, our sexual orientation,
our politics.
The politics, left and right and male and female. And it's just, it would like us not to be united. And it would like us to stay in our definitions of ourselves that are very identity politic. And that's a huge trap today, which is what the media today, because the media is serving not the unification of the souls on earth towards liberation. It's serving some other kind of agenda.
Can you imagine the media one day serving the unification of all souls?
Oh my God, we would be there already. We would be there already. It's because of all the opposition that plays hardball, takes its role very seriously, that we're still where we are today.
Or even more fractured, I think. I think that the media and the political world is just feeding the Ahrimanic forces. It's just, or being fed by it. It's just getting more and more crazy how you can.
It's coming to a head. It's coming to a head.
Yes, good. Yeah.
And Rudolph Steiner said that this is what would happen exactly at this time, exactly in this, possibly this year or last year or one of these very moments in time when Ahriman would manifest as a being on earth. So, I mean, I don't know who that is. I think we need to kind of be aware that the impulse is very strong. I have a very dear friend, Alex. We talk all the time about politics. And he and I, it's gotten maybe a little bit heated, but we're pretty mature people. We can handle it. We still love each other and we get past it. But recently, even more than ever, just talking about like Israel and stuff going on in Israel, we could feel that Ahrimanic impulse to like, no, my side is right. You don't get it. That energy of like, your blood's boiling. You're not understood. That person's an idiot over there, and I know better, and I'm just going to cut them out of my life. I didn't feel that, but you can feel that impulse, almost like in, the Lord of the Rings, when the One Ring is sitting amongst all the people of the fellowship, and they start arguing and fighting amongst themselves. Like, that's the energy that it creates. And we have to recognize it so we don't fall into that trap. Like, that's basically the agenda for any interaction should be, okay, let's talk, but let's just not fall into the Ahrimanic trap right now. We can disagree, but let's just remember to stay united in heart, because ultimately that's the point, or that's what's important. Yeah. So
yeah, I completely agree. I've been an advocate, especially since the COVID years, which I found extremely divisive, of staying connected, stay connected, stay connected. You don't have to agree. You don't have to even talk about all these things, but do everything in your power to stay connected, unless with the people in your life, unless it's abusive or something that's really unhealthy for you.
Yeah. And like with COVID, I think it got to a point where people were so like taken over by the mind virus. That was the agenda there, that I would encourage people, don't separate from people in the heart, but sometimes you do need to draw a line and stay, have distance from people when they're just completely unreasonable. Mm-hmm. Because otherwise you could become very frustrated in trying to get through to that person if you take it as your role, like your mission, like I have to get through to that person. But that could be very difficult. Very difficult.
I think that's one of the things, that's one of my big learnings. I still struggle with it a little bit, but I don't know that it's my job to get through to people.
Yeah.
I don't know that I can do that in lots of situations. But I think I can hold the space and, like you said, keep your heart open and keep your heart connected. And that's, I think, where that's where the alchemy happens. That's where the chemistry happens. That's where the potential for reconnection and creativity happens. But once you cut it off, I just saw so much cutting off. And when you do that, it's like you're an island unto yourself. But also, that's not really what our design is.
Right, exactly. And you bar the possibility for miraculous reconciliations, beautiful reconciliations. Like, yeah. I think it's wise of us, because I myself have cut people off, like when it got to that point. And then, but that's a shame. Of course, we can't stay connected to every person that we've met in our lives. Like,
of course
sometimes
not.
we evolve, we move past whatever.
Yeah.
But to be open in spirit to that person, with the discernment of what you disagree with, so you're not inviting in their energy, whatever they're sleeping with, whatever energies they're in bed with. You don't want to invite those energies. That distinction is important. But just to be open, I think it's nice to, like, in case they come back, I wouldn't turn them away.
Yeah. Keep the door open, or a door open. Yeah. Okay. So in your healing work, who comes to you?
People that are orchestrated by the Almighty for both of us, for me and for that person. So it's interesting because it's not scientifically documented or anything, but it's an undeniable observation that I have in practice, that different people will come to me as I evolve. So when I'm ready for them, they'll come to me. If you build it, he will come. Well, if you are healed enough, they will come. So as a practitioner starts, they're ready for a certain kind of case. And that's a reflection of where they are in their evolution. As they evolve and deepen, and not just from their knowledge of how to practice medicine or whatever they're doing, homeopathy or acupuncture or even hands-on healing. It's not just from the knowledge and the experience. It's also from the evolution of how they can dance in the energy fields of people. Because so the way people So there's multiple ways that people come. Like I put myself out there, but why did one person find me and another didn't? Very often people have been referred by, their loved ones refer them. So that happens as well. And then I can tell the people that come to see me, they're ready to work on the level that I work at. Because I make it pretty clear how I work, because I don't want somebody to come to me. I mean, I won't work with them if they say, all right, what do you do to help me? Like fix me, heal me, doctor. No, sorry. That's a false model. Now, it doesn't mean that the false model doesn't serve some purpose, because if a person is so sick and so suffering, there's a elephant sitting on them. They can't navigate, or they're in the tentacles of the octopus. They don't have the wiggle room to do their own healing. They need some kind of external medicine to help them get healthy enough that they could start working with the holistic model, which is mind-centric, by the way. But I won't work with someone unless they know how I work. So they have to know how I work before they come to see me. And they have to want that for themselves. They have to want to understand what they're doing inside that's manifested their chronic problem.
Do you think that people need to have a belief in medicine for it to work? Like that's also belief centered?
No, that's like kind of placebo. It doesn't really hurt for a person to believe. It's helpful, but it doesn't operate because of the belief. It operates because of the principles of the medicine. And the principles of the medicine ought to work even in like a newborn baby, in an animal. I'm thinking now of homeopathy as an example of medicine that's works regardless of belief. So if you line up 100 cows that have like this epidemic amongst cows, and you find the right remedy that matches that manifestation of the epidemic, they should all respond. And they don't know that you're sticking it in their feed. They don't have placebo. They're not believing in the pill. Same as babies. And when the principle in mind body medicine, when the belief is shed fully, when the person is willing to let it go, and they do actually let it go, then you see the healing, not because they believed that they would be healed, but because they let go of the belief that was troubling them or causing their illness.
Yeah, I mean, you may not know this. I'm a Unity minister, and Myrtle Fillmore. I'll be brief with this story because my listeners have heard this, but really, Unity was founded on spiritual healing, and she had a diagnosis of tuberculosis, and she wasn't supposed to live more than 6 months, but she went to a lecture and she heard this lecturer say, "I am a child of God, and therefore do not inherit sickness." Or he might have said, "You are a child of God, and therefore you do not inherit sickness." But she took that belief that she is connected to the divine. She is the offspring, the interconnected nature of the divine, and therefore is not ill. And she healed herself with that belief. But she also spent 2 years in contemplation and prayer and talking to her body and all of that. But it was kind of interesting in that case. I think it was letting go of the false belief that illness is a condition that I am victimized by, and
Totally.
she replaced it with another belief. It's really interesting.
So actually, I'm really glad you brought that up, because this shows another tier of healing. And the tier of healing that I work most in, like I'm always working with the divine as much as I'm open to the divine. However, what you're talking about is like even a tier higher. And the Course in Miracles really illustrates this very well. So they call the atonement the release of the false belief of separation from God. And basically the belief of being separate, that I am an individual self, which is very synchronistic, sorry, not synchronistic, but very similar to the teachings in yogic philosophy. that having that very belief itself sets the stage then for false beliefs to manifest in illness. But when we are not believing ourselves to be separate, then there's that whole thing is sort of like trumped. It's all trumped.
Yeah, it's wiped away. Yeah.
It's wiped away. It's wiped away because we are dwelling within the awareness of the true self, which is the pure consciousness, which has no space in time. It is, was, and always will be. It's the nature of God, the nature of the divine. It's the eternal beingness. So yeah, so thanks for bringing that up, because that's so true, and that's something to aspire towards. So we can work with ourselves on all these beliefs, and then we could also either at the same time, which is what I do, or you could just devote yourself just to that path of like, I am. The language is, I'm hesitating with the language because the real language is I am, period.
Right.
That's all you could really say. But then you could say I am God, but then that has a bit of rub for me, just because we tend to objectify what God is rather than this beingness. But if one has that understanding, God is, was, and always will be. God is pure awareness itself. Then it's okay. You can say I am God. Fine.
Depends on what your definition is.
Yeah, exactly. If you're like, I am God, I am creator of this world, like kind of in that weird, like Luciferic kind of way, then that would be problematic, right? Definitely.
Yeah. Is that the level that you were talking about before when you were just defining the different parts, the different bodies, where the level of your consciousness can be where miracles come through? Is that the level generally?
Yep. Yep. And it is also the place that comes through even when working with belief systems, because the premise of how I work is around this principle of I am, and that principle is unconditionally okay for the person that I'm working with. It is an unconditional state that is an invitation for all people. So when we encounter the conditionality in their mind and in their choices, like, I'm not okay unless I'm respected, I have money, I'm beautiful. Like, we get stuck in these conditions, then we become externalized to thinking we need that thing to be happy, healthy, okay, which is a falsehood. Then we work to reverse that condition and fall back into the I am okay unconditionally. And that's the field within which we can become absorbed, and that allows us to hand away, release the false belief. Because the false belief can be so integral to our identity and so core that the person is like, I don't know what reality is after I let go of this belief. I don't know who I am. The answer is you are. Like, that is the answer. You are.
Yeah, very interesting. Well, you mentioned that the aromatic influences are coming to an end. I'm wondering what you see as the future of the mind-body healing. I don't want to say business, but
Yeah.
whatever you want to call it.
How am I gonna make money after Ahriman's gone? Well, I don't know if I said that Ahriman is coming to an end, although it's true. It is. It's coming to a head.
A head. Okay. All right. That's different.
And that implies, no, but that does imply ultimate resolution, right? I just don't know how long that period of time would be, but it's coming to a head, and you can feel the tensions rising on the planet. And it doesn't mean that it has to like bring us all down in a fiery basket, but we're being challenged by it right now, for sure.
But we're also falling for it. I mean, it's so interesting how we're just falling for it. Let's just go into this abyss.
And let's fight about stuff. You know, Steiner, he's probably one of the greatest teachers on the planet around how this force operates. And so one of the things that it does is it gets people in their intellect arguing about the points that make sense to them. And before their eyes, they have all the principles that are so obviously true to them that the other side must therefore be wrong. And the problem with that is the nature of the universe, which I also get into in Israel's Unfinished Covenant. We live in a universe of correspondence, which means that the nature of reality is always bifurcated. It's always doubled into opposites. Masculine and feminine, yin and yang, sun and the moon. These opposites are easy to identify with one versus the other, but not both. Both is the challenge of the Christ, and it's a narrow path, which few choose to walk, but everybody's invited to walk. So we identify with one, let's say the masculine side or the conservative political side, or we identify with the feminine and the progressive political side. Then we have this is how Ahriman works. It works to really support the idea that this is right and this opposite, because it's opposite, is wrong. Of course it's wrong if it's opposite, because I know that this is true. What I know it's true, and it is true, but it's a half truth. This is the important message that I wish everybody gets to understand. Yes, you're right. I get it, unless you're wrong, which is another story. But you're right. You're right. What you're saying is true, but it's half true. The truth only lives in the union of opposites. The Christ is born from the union of opposites. And that is a living truth that eradicates Ahriman's influence and also brings peace and helps to reconcile differences because you understand both sides. That's what we need to understand today. So when a person is arguing, their truth is so real to them, even if it's not actually inherently true, it's true to them, or it's true in that half-truth sense. So that's the tricky part, because the Ahrimanic impulse is to just say, this is right, that's wrong. It feeds that. And that's why YouTube and all these channels, it's like you have your camp. All the
the
things
algorithms are designed for you to get what you want to see, and for the opposite side to get what they want to see.
Yeah,
and then
then
all
so
they
you're
see is
living
the
in these-
reality.
You're living in these bubbles of identity separation and knowledge separation. Now, because all truths are half truths, even what I just said has another side that's also half true and half not true. Because, for example, in certain things like, I want to say like vaccinations, if I can. I don't know if that will get us in trouble.
I'm willing to play.
Yeah. There are certain things that are inherently just very problematic because they've evolved from false principles, and those things are. So if people I wouldn't apply this to like an anti-vax crew on one side and a vax crew on the other. They're not both going to be identifying with things that are true. But the Ahrimanic principles do apply, that the vaxxers will be very convinced that their side is correct, and the anti-vaxxers will be very convinced that their side is correct. One in this case is actually correct. But the force of Ahriman, it doesn't care what's true or what's not true. It just seeks to separate through ideas and the intellect.
Yes. And it's kind of fun to see how, like I'll be in a group. I'm going to get back to the healing in a second, but I'll be in a group and we're all together, and then suddenly somebody will bring in flat Earth, and then everyone's like, and then there's a camp that goes over there, and a camp that goes over there.
Yeah. That's flat Earth is a great example of where there's no in between. I've heard people tell me, flat Earth is so absurd that I won't even base myself or lower myself to argue about it. It's funny because I have actually fallen to the flat Earth camp. Like I'm not vehemently a proponent of it, but I've studied that in depth, and so it's funny that
Okay.
that's the case.
Yeah, my husband's a former NASA astronaut, and so I'm in his camp and what he saw and his life
Uh-huh.
work. So
Interesting. Well, maybe we could have a chat about that at
we
some
can
point.
do that. We
But
can do that.
but
So
here's the thing though. Here's the thing. Let's say I disagree with you. Um, there's the cognitive dissonance that occurs when one's mind is stretched beyond their what's known to them. So regardless of who we are, how old we are, or what we're into, we have to get into cognitive dissonance training. When I used to do karate, we did something called pain inoculation. So we would inoculate ourselves by hurting ourselves mildly, not like overtly, but over time you didn't desensitize yourself so that if you are in a fight and you get hit, you're not going to lose your cool and like lose your center. You'd be like, okay, that's pain. All right. So it's the same with cognitive dissonance. It's okay for cognitive dissonance to be in the space. Don't lose your mind over it. Just say, okay, there's cognitive dissonance. It's normal. And then don't fall for the harmonic trap. And then you'll be fine in conversations.
yeah, I
Okay.
get
Yeah.
that. So you'd be okay with new information, and just I think a place of inquiry is a good place to be. A place of questioning, a place of being open,
Yeah.
a space of not having to defend or stand on my rightness. But maybe that's a possibility, and I'm willing to listen. Or perhaps I'm not willing to
Yeah.
listen, but I'm not going to lose my cool over it. It's like
Yeah.
we're gonna move on, stay friends. Um,
Yeah. Yeah.
yeah.
That's
Yeah.
good.
Okay. Okay. So I want to wrap this one up. I want to make sure that you say what you want to say about your healing methodology because it sounds really intriguing. I know in Unity, we teach that we can change our mind and we change our mind and we can change our experience. And then there's not always a formula exactly to how to do that and have it stick. And
Right.
your work sounds like it is really about helping identify the false belief systems in a way that the revelation of that false belief now sticks with me and allows even my body to change and the energy to be released and to flow within me. And I don't keep going back to that false belief. So I'm really intrigued about this. And I want to make sure that you have said everything you want to say about it.
Yeah. Thanks. That was a excellent summary. And there, I could add a few addendums. It is a methodology of how to first of all unearth. So the first part of learn what happens in any given dialogue is the discovery process, where we discover what the false belief is, and the second is the release phase, the resolution phase, and that's where the healing really comes. That when the belief is discovered, sometimes the person is just ready to let it go and it's gone. But more often than that is that there's a lot of ego resistance. There's habitual patterns around it. An intellect is aware of it being false, but the emotions are very attached because as a child, that false belief helped the person believe that they needed it to survive. Or there's a lot of candy attached to it. Like they get egoic, bolstering from it. So there is quite a bit of processing that could be involved. And even when a person discovers a false belief, they might still need to come back and keep having doses of the truth that it's not true. They need to see past it. Like, oh yeah, that again. Ha ha ha. Ha ha ha. There it is again. Well, that's like a dose of a medicine. So in homeopathy, we give a dose, and that one dose can really help a person either forevermore, they don't need it anymore, or for a couple of months and then they get triggered or something happens and then they're back in that place where they need another dose. So it's the same thing with false belief systems. We could very much clear a belief and then it could come back later. It's like, I thought I was past that. What the heck? Like I'm not very happy right now with this. I thought I was past this. Well, we just go back there again. And so that there's no, eventually the person has no reason to return. They have no identification with it. There's no attachment. And then they are truly healed past that point. And then they get to embrace the deeper part of themselves that has issues. Yay, this is a part of the evolution of the soul. At a certain point, that's a finite process. That ends at a certain point. Although I don't think our growth does. Okay, yeah, so my program is called Holistic Counseling, and I train people in the Vis Dialogue method. It's a full year program for practitioners or just very, yogic practitioners or coaches or people that are really into healing and they want some modality to be able to help someone and they're working on their own evolution, their own healing. That person would do very well in the program. It's 1 year long. It has 3 courses in the program itself. And then there's a lot of support and one-on-ones for your own healing and for mentoring for when you start to practice with other people. I do mentoring sessions one-on-one. And if anybody's interested in that work, they can visit my website, Dr Moshe, MOSHE.com. And there they'll see my own work, healing work, and also the training. They can follow and discover about the training.
And you have some videos of your people too, who have either qualified in your method or something. There's some videos on your website. I know I watched a couple of those. So
yeah, exactly. Like those are the videos where they are demonstrating these amazing results with their own patients / clients. It's so lovely to see that. I love that very much. Yeah.
Okay, so before we close, Dr. Moshe, give us a little taste of what we're going to do in the next hour so people will definitely want to come back.
Okay, so, I'm a naturopathic doctor. One of the principles of naturopathic medicine is to treat the cause of illness. And I think one of the major causes right now of suffering and discord on the planet is emerging with the conflict in Israel. And there's a lot to say about it. It's a very complex issue. So we're going to discuss the complex issues. We're going to discuss the video series that I painstakingly laid out in order to address these issues in a balanced way, which is not, aromatically identity oriented, like I see it my way and I don't see the other, but really trying to bring the light of the Christ into recognizing a path to peace, a path to resolution, and also in healing some of the energies that are being flung towards Israel and flung towards Jews, because there are issues there, but it's often brought into places which are not accurate and not fair and are very damaging. So there's lots that we're going to discuss, hopefully, whatever we can get to. And then it's up to the person to, watch the videos and then see for themselves, decide for themselves. So that's what we'll do next hour.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to it. I invite people to bring their open minds and their open hearts and release their I am rights about the world and about this whole particular issue. And then we're going to have a wonderful dialogue. Thank you so much, Dr. Moshe, and everybody. Thank you for listening. And I now close the Spiritual Forum. Thanks for listening. If you like what you've heard here, hit the subscribe button, leave a comment, or a rating and review on Apple Podcasts. You can also sign up for my weekly newsletter or make a donation to support this work at thespiritualforum.org. Tune in every week. And remember, you are a divine creation, perfect and whole, just as you are.